It's pure madness. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time. And net neutrality not had the best week, has it? Yes, Ajit Pai, the big old twat end, finally got his hands on it and managed to pass a vote to repeal it, 3-2 in the hearing. This doesn't surprise me because at the end of the day, nothing was going to budge those commissioners. They were superglued to their position, and you could tell that. As an aside point, I must say that Ajit Pai is a bit of a rude knobhead. Mignon Clyburn made this really impassioned speech on the matter, and let me just show you his response.
Amen to that, Mr. Chairman. Amen to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clyburn. I'm going to mark you down as a no. So that's
Just my thoughts. Bit unprofessional, mate. But anyway, that part's all said and done for now. Now, as many senators are raising their concerns, it will likely go to Congress, and if you care about it then you should definitely give your congressman a buzz to let them know how you feel. This video has been made to wrap up some loose ends that weren't quite addressed in my last one, and I hope that I can do that sufficiently. Since the vote there has been a lot of speculation about what the future could mean, even more than before the vote. I think that some of these outcomes have been blown out of proportion. I don't think that certain websites will be sanctioned off, nor do I ever think you'll be paying for individual tweets. Also, all the people talking about how the repealment of net neutrality may affect certain groups such as the LGBT community. Even if you do have a point, the way you structure it makes it sound like it's direct victimization rather than just the collateral damage that it would be construed as. I state that it's important to not get too carried away with these arguments because basically a lot of the anti-net neutrality journalists don't have any arguments beyond ha 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 ha, look at these extremists. And listen, I'm not saying that there aren't decent points of discourse for the whole debate, but the journalists see pointing out extremes as the easiest way to represent their points because it's hard not to condemn someone making a death threat, for example. And in a way, I have seen few people turned off the whole fight for net neutrality thing because this pro-net neutrality side has been a bit carried away at points. I'm happy to admit that. With that said, there's nothing wrong with pointing out genuine and truthful arguments, and I had a few that I didn't mention in my last video, which I'm gonna bring up now, just so I can feel satisfied with being able to close the whole topic with nothing unsaid. Speaking of these things that have been unsaid, do you know why people have been coming up with these wacky conspiracy theories about what's gonna happen? Because people haven't been able to answer the hard question. You ask Ajit Pai a question and you might as well play FCC Commissioner bingo. He'll open with the word well, dodge the question and use the term free and open internet as many times as possible, and also throw in the term light touch regulations a few times too. Probably one of the most infamous interviews with PBS, when asked about paid prioritization, he said the situation is hypothetical. When presented with the evidence that it had happened, he then said, but it's rare. And then he said we should put our faith in fair trade regulations. Now, he is referring to the Fair Trade Commissions Act, but given the fact that a lot of the times it has happened in the past and underwhelming action has been taken to say the least, it doesn't instill people's faith. And given that no one can say with conviction that an ISP would be apprehended for partaking in such actions is not great either. Also, the fact that Comcast removed their no-pay prioritization pledge on the same day that the FCC announced their intentions, yeah, it was understandable that people were fairly suspicious. People haven't received enough information to say, okay, this possibility won't occur, we can let this change happen. In fact, when Comcast are pulling stunts like this, it compels the very opposite. All Ajit Pai had to do was assure people that some of these things that individuals view as an overwhelming positive in this day and age will remain, and he could not do that. All he could do is dress up as Santa with fidget spinners and kill an already fucking dead meme. Thank you, Daily Caller, for blessing us with that one. What also doesn't help is the fact that online companies are so concerned about it. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we understand that from hysteria, people could misunderstand what's going on, and people could be wrong. And in fact, there is nothing that we should be worried about. Yet the fact that so many sites oppose this, sites who employ people to be fully informed on the status and the possible implications of such, is not a good sign. Are these sites mostly self-interested? Definitely. But what happens to them will definitely have more of a public impact than the current situation with the ISPs. The lack of a convincing case and the uncertainty is partly due to the fact that Pai practically wants to repeal Title II and then just pass on responsibility to the FTC, absolving them of any consequence of what happens next. I think it's a bewildering decision to do such a move in one, especially when you can't make guarantees to an already judgmental public. And that was the problem for me. I'm very anti-paid prioritization, and even when I put all the crazy possibilities down for one, I couldn't see anyone of authority or trust saying this definitely won't happen, and here's why. I don't put my faith in the law, especially in America, and there's this constant buzzword, deregulation, being thrown around, and I don't really understand the point. From a skeptical perspective, which is the perspective that I have to take in this instance, all we're doing is moving from the government's regulation of ISPs to the ISP's regulation of the internet, and there's just not enough to prove otherwise. When even right-wing libertarians like Colin Moriarty are signaling their concern for such a policy, everyone else has complete justification to be cynical towards such proposals. As he put it, a complete upheaval just wasn't warranted enough. Title II is far from perfect, but the solution in this circumstance wasn't to gut the whole thing, and it's a shame that Pai couldn't do some light touch framework of his own. Maybe the public would be a bit more permitting in that instance. Whatever the outcome, people need to make sure that companies are held to account and it doesn't just slip to the back of our minds. Once again, there's still plenty more time. If you do feel strongly, let your congressman know. I feel like people don't utilize this more, and the fact that we are doing it this time round is kind of cool. But now we're there, we shouldn't let it be forgotten about. Make sure they know what they're signing up to and make sure they know where you stand. This will likely be my final video on it for a while, unless any new developments occur. Once again, I would love to hear your thoughts, though they may have already been stated in previous videos. Nonetheless, I'm the right opinion, and I'll see you in the next one.